Welcome everybody to episode 30 of UnHacked. Guys, UnHacked is a podcast where we talk to and coach business owners who have been severely breached, all their money robbed, their data stolen, and we teach them how to get it all back to the way it was before the breach, correct?
Yeah, that'd be nice if it was the way it worked.
Oh, if only. Like I said, the title's a little bit of a deliberate misnomer because the reality of this is with proper procedures, with proper measures in place, we can prevent about 97% of data breaches of lost money, lost time, lost data. But once you've been hit, you cannot get fully unhacked. So week after week, we sit here, we break this down, we discuss, we coach business owners not on how to get unhacked, but how to prevent it from ever happening in the first place, because that's the only way that it'll really that we can really play this game. We've got the formula. We're going to bring that in at the end of the show here. Let's do some quick introductions. I am Justin Shelley, CEO of Phoenix IT Advisors. I work with businesses in the Dallas metro as well as out west in Nevada, Utah, and Idaho. And I am, as always, sitting here with my good friends and co-hosts, Mario Zaki. Mario, tell everybody who you are, what you do, and who you do it for.
Zaki, CEO of Mastech IT. We service small businesses to keep them protected from the dark web and hackers and stuff like that. You know, we service the New York, New Jersey area and been doing it for a long time.
All right, Bryan, what same question.
Yeah,
Who
Bryan
are
Lachapelle. Yeah, President and CEO of B4 Networks. We're based out of the Niagara region in Ontario, Canada, and we support just about the entirety of the Southern Ontario region. And essentially, we help businesses streamline their IT services. We provide everything from day-to-day support and long-term cybersecurity strategies. And typically, we'll work with greenhouses, professional services firms, manufacturing companies, and things like that to help them keep their systems running smoothly.
All right, and guys, today this is kind of a fun title. We are going to answer the burning question that I know all of our listening audience has, which is, what in the hell is the dark web anyways?
I'm sure they dream about it.
I'm sure it's on everybody's mind.
We get an overwhelming amount of fan mail asking us what that is.
What is the dark web?
I asked Mario before you got on, Bryan, if he was a fan of the show Letterkenny. I think I've asked you this before and you were not impressed at all. But anyways, don't answer that. We'll say that. But they have an episode where they talk about the dark web, and every time they say it, they have to say dark web. They can't. They have to whisper it. The dark web is not a good place to hang out, right? So we're going to get into what it is, what you can do there, depending on your intentions, and what it means for us. And then we're going to break down a breach. Now, have you guys heard of the breach? This was actually last year, 23andMe. You're familiar with the website, familiar with what they do, and you know they were breached last year, right? Yep. So right now they're in the middle of actually trying to get a settlement approved, and so we're going to talk about that. And then at the end, of course, as always, we're going to wrap it up with our formula for how to protect your businesses from the likes of Boris Grishenko. Let's get started. Guys, I have a pop quiz for you. We are recording today at September 26th. And hey, listen, if you've read the notes, you are well aware that this question's coming. Today's September 26th, but I published these a few days later. They usually come out Tuesday morning, which will be October 1st. Bryan, Mario, what is October?
Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Yeah. One of our other friends, he's like, hey guys, should I jump on? Well, Brender, no secret here because he's going to be on. Should we come up with a theme for Cybersecurity Awareness Month? I'm like, Brender, the theme is cybersecurity all the time.
All the time.
Like, I don't know how to answer your question, but we did come up with a really good answer. Actually, I kind of like it. So we're going to take the next 4 weeks of October, and we will release 4 sequential episodes where we go through in detail the steps that you should take to protect your business, the formula that I always talk about. What are the industry standards that we talk about? How do you put them in place? What you do to wrap that up with policies and procedures, and then cybersecurity insurance. Listen to those 4 episodes, take notes, and protect your business. So that is what's coming today. Like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about 23andMe. We're going to talk a little bit about the dark web. And I guess it's just time.
Funny if for October we just don't talk IT at all. Let's just do sports for
Opposite day.
We use metaphors that can relate back to cybersecurity.
Well, listen, we have our planning meeting tomorrow, Mario. Go ahead and bring all your notes for that, and we'll discuss.
I'll make sure I mention that.
All right, so guys, we're going to jump into our breach that we want to break down. And again, it's old news as far as the breach itself, but we will talk about it just as kind of a refresher, where 23andMe was hit and how it was done, what's the impact, how do we make that happen to somebody else? Because like I've said before, we're not going to turn off cybersecurity or cybercrime. It's going to happen. And the best, unfortunately, that we can hope for is to make it happen to somebody else. I hate that, but it's what I learned when I worked for Loomis Armored and I was in, gun training. It's like, hey, here's how to not get robbed. You make somebody else get robbed. I'm like, shit, that sucks. Here's how to not die. You make somebody else die. I was like, God damn. This is, and I didn't work that job much longer because I don't have the stomach for that. But here we are. It is still the best we can hope for. So 23andMe. Now, y'all are both familiar with this breach. Do you recall, and we don't need a lot of details, just what happened? What are they? What do they do? When were they breached? And what does it mean for people? Go, somebody. Bueller. Mario, go ahead.
Yeah, so they're an online, mostly online system where you can send like samples of like your saliva, so they can send you your DNA and your family history, let you know how much of a certain nationality you are and stuff like that. It's a online DNA testing system.
Some pretty personal information they send back to you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they basically map out exactly who you are, who all your relatives are, where you came from.
Everybody I talked to that did it, somehow they're always like 3% Cherokee Indian, for some reason.
Well, hey, I have no comment on that. Let's just move right along. I don't know what went on back then. That's all I'm saying. Anyways,
but they do get a lot, very deep into your business. So like they do have a good amount of information on you.
Yeah. So when they got breached, that's some pretty scary shit, right? So the financial impact of this, we're still determining the settlement, and this is just a settlement. This doesn't talk about all the other costs involved, but the settlement we're looking at, they're proposing $30 million. Insurance is going to cover most of that, so they'll get about $5 million out of pocket. We'll come back to
a lot of money.
It's still a lot of money, and then they're not done, right? Because it's just now the courts are going to say, hey, you have to pay out, but also you have to do X, Y, Z. So, reputational damage. This is one that is hard to quantify, but I'll tell you right now, I have not and will not submit my saliva to 23andMe or anybody else like that. Brian, Mario, thoughts on that?
Like for them specifically, see, here's the challenge. In most cases, once a business has been hit, in most cases, that's when they start taking cybersecurity seriously. So I would almost trust them today more than I would trust another company who has the same services that have not been hit, because they probably are still in the denial stage, right? But with that said, the only way that I would agree to send anything to a company like that is if it was somehow anonymized, like,
right.
Here's my saliva, but like I'm not giving you my name or any of my details. Here's just the code that goes with my kit, and when I could log into the website and look at my code, but you don't know who I am. That I'd be okay with.
I like that idea. I tried to get to the first part of what you said, spoken like a true IT guy. And yes, you're right. And we'll talk about that, because after the fact, after a breach, people usually are very keenly aware of cybersecurity risks and preventive measures, court ordered, as in this case. But reputationally, emotionally, the general population doesn't
Right.
understand that. And even
Yep.
as an IT guy, what I do know is you're right about that. However, I'm not taking that risk with anybody, not with 23andMe, not with anybody else. That level of personal information is staying right here.
Yep.
So
And to be honest with you, a lot of these companies, they offer a service, but their primary goal is to collect data.
oh,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
it's their database. Like when they go and try to sell a company or try to get like, loans and stuff like that, it's because they have a good amount of data. Like, look how many customers we have. Like, this is when they have a database just of a code, and they'd say, okay, you're 90% Indian and 30% Canadian and whatever. Most people don't care for that. They want to know, people. It's like Facebook. Facebook has like all this ads or whatever, but their primary goal is they're collecting data,
Right.
you know?
Yep.
So it is a good idea, Brian, but I don't think it'll ever happen.
Right. Because they're primary. Yeah, they're okay. But what we can always count on is, and I know you guys always read the EULA end user license agreements when you sign up to a website like that, where it promises that they won't ever sell your data, and it's short, concise, easy to understand language, so it's really easy to quickly go through those. And if you can't tell, I'm being wildly sarcastic today. I haven't seen theirs, but I would imagine, like most of these agreements, they're pages and pages and pages that you scroll to the bottom, you say okay, and you effectively give them the right to sell everything that they know about you. Right? That's
So
what's really.
it sounds like I should submit my saliva with your name, so that way they think I'm you.
Go ahead, I guess. I don't know. All right, so we've probably got some reputational damage. What about the emotional toll on employees? Could you imagine working for an organization that has been through a breach like this? You're nobody's friend at best,
No.
right? And the
lot of angry
stress level
people.
within the company, I mean, that's got to be a lot. Costs. I mean, what about the emotional toll on the customers who now know that their very sensitive information is out there and sold, bought and sold?
Yep. And while insurance companies aren't allowed or supposed to use DNA information to judge whether or not you should be covered, depending on what level of information is there. I mean, if I was running a business and my business was covering people for health benefits, I might be tempted to download that database and rule out everybody who has pre-existing conditions, right?
Yeah.
It's not to say it doesn't happen just because they're not allowed to do it. Doesn't mean they
Right.
won't,
Mhm.
right?
No,
All
no,
right.
it's once your information is out there, it's anybody can get it.
Once it's leaked, it can't be unleaked.
Yeah.
We make a new podcast called Unleaked.
Yeah.
So Brian, you kind of alluded to it, but and we're going to tie this in with how we make it happen to somebody else. But I mean, these poor bastards that get breached like this. I will defend them in that we've talked about this a lot, but like companies who get hit with this type of criminal activity, we forget that they are the victims of crime, and we
Right.
crucify them. And we sit here and we talk about, oh, they should have done this and they should have done that. And fuck them for, like it's their responsibility. But it's interesting when like somebody breaks into a home and robs a family blind, nobody goes after the family for not having the right security on their house. So it's kind of hard for me to go in and talk about this stuff. It's easy to just jump into that armchair quarterback seat. But we do want to learn from it. And interestingly, when the court came back and said, okay, again, this is still being settled, but what they should have done is what we talk about week after week. And anybody want to guess what the first thing is that they're supposed to do?
Oh, the best practices?
Well, in this case, because I mean, actually, okay, let's pause for a second. We have to talk about the type of attack. Okay. I forgot to get in the technical details. What somebody volunteer? What type of attack was this? How does it work? And what does it mean?
I'm assuming you're talking about credential stuffing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, very briefly, because like we come up with these terms and terminology and stuff like that all the time, and it drives me bonkers because most people have no idea what they mean. So to really narrow it down, I want you to imagine, a website gets breached, and they collect the usernames and passwords from all of the people who use that website. Well, the bad part about that is a lot of people reuse their passwords in a lot of different places. So essentially what credential stuffing is, hey, I got this login and password that I found in a breach. Let me try that login and password on as many different websites as I possibly can, and maybe I'll get lucky and some poor sap use the same password in 2 different places. And that's essentially what our understanding of what happened in this case. Somebody was reusing their passwords and happened to be somebody who had some sort of access that allowed the breach to occur. Did I get
Right.
that?
Yep.
You
You
the
nailed
gist
it.
of it? All
Yep.
right.
Spot on.
So the number one method for preventing a credential stuffing attack, do you know what it is? Well,
don't you reuse your passwords.
Okay, so that's on the end user side, correct? 100% correct. Right. If I have a website, what do I need to enable? So that's kind of what I'm getting at here. Is
two-factor authentication will kill
right.
that.
How often do we talk about 2FA on here, or how often do we talk about it with our clients? How often? Yeah, I mean,
what is 2FA?
What is that again?
I've never heard of it. Yeah, and then you've got security questions. I hate those, by the way. I hate those with a passion. And it's also,
you ever see those?
I will admit, I always put the same thing for the security questions because I'd never remember what I've used.
Mario, don't even answer the security questions correctly. Don't use real information, right? Like, where were you born? Well, I'm not going to tell you where I'm born. I'm going to just put something else in there, because if somebody ever goes, "Hey, Brian, where were you born?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I was born in Welland." Like, boom, they got my security question, right? Like, right. I'm not gonna even realize they're asking me security questions if it's just somebody that's like off the side. Like, you've probably seen those things on Facebook once in a while. It's like, your mugger name is the street you lived on, and your dog's name, and obviously you give that information away for free, but what they're doing is actually trying to find out what your security questions are, right?
Yeah, I always use like a combination of something that I'm going to remember, but not the actual word, because I don't remember what city I was born and who's my first grade gym teacher. Like, what?
Yeah.
Then you see that question like 3 years later, like, I still don't know what the hell I put in there.
Well, that was going to be my point. What frustrates me more about those questions is that they're almost never asked later. They ask you when you're signing up, and then you never see them again. Right. Want to reset your password, they send you a password reset link. It's just, I don't understand the point of those at all. But it was in this, it was in my research, so I put it on here. CAPTCHA is another one. If we're going to talk about pissing me off fast, throw a CAPTCHA onto a website that I'm trying to sign up for.
Oh my God, yeah. Find the motorcycle. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Clicking on the motorcycle. You always have that little piece of the bicycle that's sticking out into another one.
Do I select it? Don't I select it?
Oh, God, I hate those. I hate those. So yeah, from an end user standpoint, don't reuse passwords. We say that all the time, and the solution to that is a password manager.
Right.
And we could talk probably for hours on the pros and cons of all this stuff. Nothing is a perfect solution, but that is better than trying to either reuse or remember all of these passwords. So
yeah, we believe in password managers so much. We in most of our service offerings now, we just include it as part of the bundle, so they just get it as part of our security services in most cases.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So poor 23andMe, how do we make it happen to somebody else? According to the court, what they should have done is, let me, instead of trying to remember it, I'm going to see if I can, under the, I got to bring this up first. They had to develop a brand new type of dark web monitoring for this breach. Did you guys know that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Don't let me go past this segment without diving back into that. Among other claims, the company failed to properly protect personal information in accordance with its responsibilities, had inadequate data security protocols, and some other stuff. They were required to implement a long list of security improvements that would not be paid from the settlement, and it included enhanced password protection, mandating multi-factor authentication, conducting annual cybersecurity scans and audits, creating a comprehensive data security program, and data retention policies. Do we ever talk about that when we're talking about our standards and basics? And so when I say 97% of these breaches could have been prevented with basic security measures, I mean, this is what we're talking about, right? Like, this is a major thing. It's not the dollar amount of some of the bigger breaches we've discussed, but the impact for individuals is huge on this one. And we're
But
just
this is when you're signing up, they want this stuff in there for the end user. But
no,
they're
these are court-ordered protections that are security measures that 23andMe has to put in place on their side.
for employees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh
least
wow.
that-
So their
now-
employees didn't have any of this stuff?
I'm reading a document that is somebody else's take on something else. So I'm not claiming any expert or inside information here. But as we break these things down week after week, what it comes down, if the court is ordering these things and these things are basic things, all I'm saying is it confirms what we talk about. Just put the goddamn basic measures in place, quit fighting it, do it, spend a few bucks, and prevent most of these breaches, right? That's kind of was my takeaway from this. Now back to dark web, this specific type of dark web monitoring service that the courts ordered or that they put into place for this. Mario, I think you had the assignment of layman's terms description of the dark web. So let's talk about that first, and then we're going to talk about how it ties into 23andMe.
So the dark web is like the underground, like black market, you know, like parallel internet. Okay, I'm trying to go very layman terms on this, where it's literally just another internet where you can find, you can essentially search for different credentials, sign up for different websites that you could only access through the dark web.
So let's
I mean,
real quick, let me pause you. How do we access if I'm a bad guy and I want to get some of these things? I want to buy your credentials, Mario. How would I log into the dark web? Do I just type in darkweb.com or like what do I do?
No, so you have to like it's almost like a VPN connection where you're downloading
Okay.
a certain program and then it gives you access to the portal, like the gates just open and you get to walk in and stuff like that. But to get onto the dark web, you can get through find ways to do it from the normal web. You have to do a little digging. I don't think you're going to find it on YouTube, but you'll be able to get in there. And then once you get in there, it's almost like on like the regular internet. You can search for stuff. You can buy like guns on there. You can, you can go and purchase leaked credentials for somebody and say, okay, I want, and they'll sell them in like bundles and say, okay, well, for whatever the going rate is for social security numbers, we'll give you a pack of like, an Excel sheet of social security numbers, maybe like 100 of them on there for like $99. I don't think they collect taxes. I don't, I don't think so.
They're not filing reports with the
but you can buy guns. I mean, there's human trafficking websites.
I was going to say you're going
like
easy because you can buy guns at Walmart, but
yeah,
you could buy children on the dark web.
Yeah.
Like this is disgusting. This is like horrible. The stuff you can get on the dark web.
Drugs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like, this is literally, the stuff that's filtered through our normal internet is where you would go to the dark web to get. Like
because there's
all that
it's
filtered
unregulated
stuff is on there. Yeah,
completely
exactly.
unregulated. Do you guys remember? Did anybody use what they call them Tor services, or I guess they're kind of still a thing, and
The
actually it
torrents?
is. That's kind of how we get in the dark web now. But do you guys remember services like Kazaa, Kazaa? I don't even
Yeah.
remember how to pronounce it.
Is Napster? Do you remember
Yeah,
Napster?
yeah. It started off as ways to download illegal music.
Yeah.
And there was a period of time when those became pretty popular, and essentially these are kind of the forerunners to the dark web. And I would get, this is just kind of a side note, but I would get and God, I got to put a date on this, probably early 2000s, like 2000, maybe even 99, 98, or back in those years. I would have customers bring computers in. Back when I had a retail shop, they'd bring in their computer and it's just toast. I mean, it's you can't boot it, you can't it's just hosed. And it was because they would download Kazaa and stuff like that. And so I had to teach them, like, don't do that. Don't go here. Don't get on these services. And whatever they're doing, I don't know if it was the application itself or whatever they did once they got on there that they were downloading. But I mean, I inadvertently saw some horrible things when I was working on that and setting up filters for school districts and stuff like that. I'm not even talking about what I saw, but it scarred me enough that I still remember the images, almost 30 years later. So just not a good place to hang out, the dark web. So now we've got that is the environment where the likes of the data from 23andMe lives and is being bought and sold. And so one of the things the court ordered, I'm saying that, and I don't remember if the court ordered it or if they did it of their own free will, but they actually developed a specific type of dark web scan. Because, I mean, we're all familiar with it, right? We have that service for our clients, but we're mostly just looking for username password combinations. So this service is specifically looking for genetic and biological information for sale. And then if they find it, they will alert the user. And then they have a help desk that, you call in and they give you advice for remediation. Now, I don't know what that looks like, because it's not like you can call up the dark web support desk and say, hey, I found my stuff online and I'd like you to please take it down and not sell that anymore. Once it's there, it's there. With username and passwords, it's pretty easy. If it's there, just don't use it anymore. Change your password, right? So, okay. So, weekly cybersecurity tip. We broke down a breach. We tied it into the title of the episode. What is the dark web? It's a very bad place. Our tip of the week: get some good dark web scanning services, right?
Yep.
And I think we all here offer that. They're actually really easy to come by and super inexpensive and sometimes even free. So I feel like we've sufficiently beat that horse up. Do you guys have any final words on dark web or 23andMe before we move on?
No, sir.
One thing as far as the dark web, once your information is there, you can't take it off. It's like,
right.
Once you're hacked, you can't get unhacked. Once your information's on the dark web, you can't take it off. So if we provide you like a dark web report, number one question is, well, how do I clear this out?
You don't.
Can't.
Just change your
What
password.
you have to do is you have to go, whatever information is on there has to be now changed.
Yeah.
So that's that's the only thing I wanted to add.
One thing that came up and as I was researching this that I thought was interesting is, well, we evangelize the idea of not reusing passwords. Almost always the username is reused because it's an email address. And that is potentially problematic as well. So where possible, if you can use a different username, definitely do that. Some services will give you the option to create a username that isn't an email. I mean, a lot of them require it. It's got to be an email address, which makes for easy password resets and stuff like that. But it also facilitates these credential stuffing attacks like we're talking about here. So,
yep.
All right, guys, that for me at least is enough talk about the evils and the debauchery of the dark web. Let's talk about something a little bit more positive. Our weekly business tip. Who here, by show of hands, is familiar with Dan Sullivan?
I am now. No, I've heard of him before. Yeah.
Okay, so Dan Sullivan is a longtime entrepreneurial coach. He coaches other business owners, other entrepreneurs, and has been in that world in some way, shape, or form for about 50 years. He's no spring chicken. I don't know how old he is, but as I kind of observe his activities right now, it's like he's got a, if I had to guess, he's on some sort of a mission to take all the information he's learned over the years and put it in writing and preserve it. Of course, he's still trying to promote his organization and other interests as well. But one of the books that kind of caught my attention is called Who, Not How. And I found a short description of what this is about. I'm going to read that. To really succeed and reach a higher level of performance, you have to shift from a how mentality to a who mentality. By focusing on who you work with rather than trying to do everything yourself, you'll find your levels of achievement will rise at the same time as you get dramatically more freedom. So this kind of, it intrigues me because, you know, I've been through a lot of changes with my business, a lot of changes in my personal life, and I live in a world of chaos and overwhelm. And one of the things that, you know, as I'm in a position where I'm doing a fair amount of marketing right now, I also realize that I can't do it all myself. And so I kind of get stuck in this place where I want to do it myself because I want to make sure it's done right. I want to make sure I understand what's being done before I hand it off or attempt to hand it off to somebody else. And so one of our marketing methods that we're using right now is, you know, what we call canvassing. We just make these cute little gift baskets or whatever that we take to local businesses and try to use that as exchange for an opportunity to talk to them. And I put some of these together myself. I delivered them myself. I took notes of them myself. And I got some good information. However, how likely is it that I will be able to scale my business this way? Anybody? That's not going to go very far,
No.
right? So, you know, my next step to this is, you know, I want to create an army of these people to go out and do this canvassing for me. And then to do that, I'm really going to need somebody in the middle to hire and manage and maintain that process. So that's kind of where this took me. But I was curious your thoughts on this concept at large. And then also if either of you have any experience where you've kind of been the bottleneck and then we're able to take that and pivot and put somebody else who was better at the job than yourself and see really good results with that. Bryan, I see you kind of shaking your head. Do you have something there?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, I personally lived through, I don't know how many iterations of that. So, you know, used to be the one who does it all, the technical work, the sales, the marketing, the accounting, the managing of the staff. And as time went on, you know, hire somebody to be the manager, hire somebody to do the accounting, hire somebody to do some of the marketing things. And in each and every single case where I removed myself from the doing, it exponentially grew the business each and every time. Couple that with the fact that the two of you know, but maybe the audience doesn't, I coach other managed service providers throughout North America on sales and marketing. And in the cases where somebody bites the bullet and hires somebody to help them with marketing to do the tasks that they either don't have the time to do or don't have the energy or the brain power to do, and each and every single one of those situations, those businesses have grown exponentially. And in every single one of the situation where the owner insists on continuing to doing it themselves and don't hire staff to help them, they have consistently stayed small and not grown. And so I hope that is what you were looking for.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is a, like, it's not one time, not twice, like it's consistent throughout everything I've seen throughout my career.
And Mario, I'm going to punt this over to you. Same question, and I'm going to add to it. And then Bryan, you can feel free to chime in as well. But not only have you seen this or done this in your own life, in your own business, but have you seen the opposite, either personally or, you know, I definitely see clients or I see other people that I know, kind of like what you're saying, Bryan, who try to do everything themselves. And like the business is just a mess because everybody's got to come to them and they will not let go of control. You know, I've got a specific individual in mind who I've watched struggle for a long time and just like let go, let somebody else do some of this for you. Mario, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, So, you guys kind of know my story. When I first started my company 20 years ago, first 15 years, I was just me. I was the one doing the support. I was the one doing sales meetings. I was the one doing the accountant, and I did it for 15 years and growing very, slowly. And the second I decided um, that I wanted to grow and bring in another technician to handle support, bring in a salesperson to handle like sales and stuff like that. My company grew from, one just me for 15 years, and then 5 years later, we're at like 12 employees, and obviously the revenue to go with it. It really, I do know firsthand how it is to finally let go of that responsibility of doing it myself, because I didn't want to sit there and pay somebody, whatever it was, or didn't trust that somebody was going to do the same job as me. And you know what? In the beginning, it won't happen. It won't be the same as you doing it, because you've been doing it, your way for so long. But there's just so many things that, I've handed off to somebody that, they didn't do the same way I did. They do it better, you know,
Exactly. Yes.
and when you're doing it yourself, even if you're just fixing a computer yourself, sometimes you need that extra set of eyes to see it from a different way, to realize what's wrong, and that, there's better ways to do it. So there's still little things that I still do, with the company, but I don't do support. I do a little bit of sales because I enjoy it. But there's a lot of things that I've handed over to somebody else, and besides that, it's fine, it's getting done, and I can dedicate my time to more things. But I can now spend more time doing things that are not work related, taking a day or two off and
Right.
enjoying it.
Yeah. This book talks about that as well. The both getting some freedom, getting
Yeah.
the ability to take some time off, but also, we're all familiar, I'm sure, with the saying, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. And what a little horse shit that is. And I guess
Yeah.
it's true if you want it done exactly the way you would do it. But if you can let go and get the right person to do it for you, not only will it get done, it will get done differently, but probably better.
Right.
So,
Yep.
I mean, there's sometimes that the person that you thought was the right person to do it isn't the right person to do it.
absolutely. Yep.
But,
It's got to be the right
most
person.
cases,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
in
biggest
most
challenge in
cases,
most cases is that people aren't articulating exactly what their expectations are, and it's not clear what the result they're looking for are. And so the person who's doing the work has to assume or has to guess as to the intentions. So if you can be very clear and very detailed about what you want, exactly what you want, and how you, not necessarily how you want it done, but what the end result should look like, then you'll have a much better result. And you have to inspect what you expect. So you can't just delegate and disappear. You have to delegate and supervise, or delegate and check up every so often.
Yeah. I think it's pretty safe to say that if you have a significant problem in your business or a challenge that you're not able to resolve, probably it's a people problem. Probably you need either somebody who's more equipped, or you have somebody dragging you down. But you definitely have to get those right. Who was it? Jim Collins, I guess, from Good to Great. You have to get the right people on the bus and in the right seats. And I know I'm slaughtering that. That's not how he worded it. But I think that's kind of the key issue. At least this is kind of where I'm at in my life and my business right now, is getting.
and sometimes that job, or like the canvassing or whatever, sometimes it's a full-time job. And if
Yeah.
you pay somebody full-time, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week or whatever, you know where if you were doing it yourself, you could only dedicate a fraction of that time, it's not going to get done right. Or
Right.
you can get better results by doing, having somebody do it, for 40 hours a week.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. That's kind of what I've got for the week. We are going to start wrapping things up. Our formula, as always, I love to end this way, because a lot of what we talk about, I mean, we've been on it for 40 minutes today, and we're just talking about one thing, but it can feel complicated. It can feel overwhelming. I mean, I will put some fine print on it. This is not a DIY task, as we've said before. But as business owners, we have to understand it well enough to hold people accountable, to hire the right people, as we just talked about. We have to have the right people in place. And, we have to know, like, how do you know if you're not an IT guy, if you're not a cybersecurity expert, how do you go out and hire one and interview them and know what? So I really think that a lot of the value we bring to business owners in this podcast is arming them with that information. So at least they can go out and interview and hire and get the right people doing this job for them. So the formula that we're looking for, using best practices, and these are published. I'm not just saying, make it up. Protect your technology, protect your data, and protect your people. You've got those 3 buckets that you really need to focus on and make sure that those 3 things are taken care of. That gets us to the 97% level. That gets us to not making headline news, not settling $30 million lawsuits, not pissing off our employees and our clients. It just takes the target off. It doesn't take the target off our back, but it puts a shield up, right? And then if somebody is determined enough, they will breach anything. And so we have to wrap that up, close that gap with a good insurance policy, and then make sure we're following proper policies and procedures within the company. So that's the formula. We're going
so you don't
to
have 2 bald guys and somebody that's soon to shave talking about you on their weekly podcast.
soon to shave. What are you talking about? Oh, Brian's.
I'm not shaving.
No, I thought he was saying I had to shave my beard. I'm like, the fuck I am. Nobody wants to see that. Okay. All right, guys. Man, I feel like I've been running my mouth a lot this time. So I'm gonna go to you, Brian, then you, Mario. Say your final thoughts, your last words, and then we're gonna close this thing out. Brian, go ahead.
Okay, so dark web sounds like an issue that are at least my prospects will probably never dive into themselves. And so I highly encourage everybody to connect with whoever's handling your IT. If you don't have anybody now or you don't trust them to do it, give us a call. We can give you a second opinion on any of that. And as I always say, treat cybersecurity and IT in general and everything you do in your business as a journey, and try to get 1% better every single day, and you will be leaps and bounds ahead of everybody around you.
Perfect. I love that. Love it, Brian. Mario, what do you got for us?
So, like we said earlier, knowing what's on the dark web is half the battle. You can't change it. You can't take any of that stuff off. But the best thing to do is know what's out there and to change what's out there instead of trying to remove it. And I know myself, and I'm sure Brian and Justin will also offer it. Not in addition to the network security assessments that we will do, we will also offer a free dark web scan for you guys. So that way you have a knowledge and education of what is out there, what information, besides social security. We can't do anything about that, but you need to know what information's out there, what's on the dark web that of your information is out there, and take action about it.
Yeah, knowledge really is power here, because even if you can't get it removed, even if it's out there and it, that is some level of permanent damage, but being aware of it does allow you to put some additional layers of protection around yourself. So good point, Mario. Guys, as always, go to unhacked.live and you can book a consult with any of the 3 of us. These consults are free. We're going to find out if we're a good fit for you, if we can help you in any way, shape, or form. Worst case scenario, you come away with a free assessment and a roadmap of how to fill these gaps. So take us up on that offer, and be sure to follow us for the next 4 episodes as we get detailed, down and dirty on what these standards are that we're always talking about and how to implement them. That's it, guys. Brian, Mario, thanks for being here, and
Cheers.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
See you next week.